quick rundown of the platform. Well, you can check it all out at www.backtobasicsmsa.com. And our platform is different than the others. It's not 3 big promises or 4 tenets or whatever normally has been done. It looks at student life as a narrative. So when you go through and you look at programs like Lean On that or addressing mental health, Swipe Me In addressing food insecurity, Glow addressing how there's some structural inefficiencies. You also have our program for Inside Out, which is asking every MSA elected and paid official to be Green Dot trained, DPE facilitated, and Safe Space trained, along with the other joint session governments and org. That's not even a fourth of the platform. But really, when you go through and you look at things, I think John and I agree that we realized you can go cliche and have these pillars, or you can talk about what students want and have action plans that every single person can go through and see.
I know every person I've spoken to, I tell them all the time, I encourage them to go to all 3 websites, and you'll see that our platform has 5, tactical points about basically how we're going to go about doing it.
For each individual thing, there's a 5-step plan.
And like basically, it's not a blanket statement just for us to cover our butts. It's actually, like he said, the narrative of the college student, and we've basically tailored it for the transfer student, the working student, the student that's involved, the student that doesn't know much about inclusion versus exclusion. And it gives them, I guess, the opportunity to be educated on something like that. So
we call it the invisible student. It's a student that's left out, that 87% of campus that doesn't normally vote in MSA elections, and that senior who goes 4 years without knowing what MSA is. Because this is what I love to do. I love having the ability to ask, I guess, really to be able to positively affect the student experience here at Mizzou, or in life in general. This is just an avenue where I think that I can positively spend my time and affect change. Last year, I ran against 2 brilliant individuals. I ran on the basis of proving to any student, no matter who they are, what title they have, even if they don't have a title, that you are a part of MSA and you pay the student fees the same as the rest of us, and really encouraging people to be involved in the process. I think we saw that last year with having 25% of campus vote, the largest ever. Most important. All of it?
I'm like, Inside Out.
I guess Inside Out.
Inside Out, because it covers everything from Title IX practices all the way to being educated on privilege and actually being able to relate in a room full of strangers sometimes, or in a room full of friends. And then with safe space education, it helps individuals foster those conversations that everyone tries to avoid because they don't want to lose a friend. They might not look at that person the same, but basically through my first safe space training, it says, what's shared here stays here, and what's learned here, it leaves the circle, because everyone grows. I know from that I grew tremendously because the people that I was in the room with, I didn't see them the same, but it wasn't negative. It was, enlightening and empowering. Yeah, it was very empowering.
It isn't about another training or another conversation. Those are buzzwords to me because they're PR moves. They're things that you say. It's dog whistle politics. But we want to empower every student to take a part in this conversation. And one of the reasons that question is so hard for us to answer is that Inside Out much like any other part of the platform, is dependent on so many other things. Inside Out's dependent on having Glow, which will set up liaisons to Greek life, so we're in lockstep on these issues. It's dependent on 21st century communication, so we can get the message out effectively and have more than a one-person Department of Student Communications in 2015. You know, these things are all working together.
So Mizzou 49, first off, it addresses that African American students were allowed on this campus in 1950, but it was implemented in 1949 through the student body. And basically, Mizzou 49, it acknowledges. It's not another award, accolade, anything. It acknowledges that we, first off, ooh, brain. We encourage people to speak up about what they believe in. MSA stands behind social justice completely. I mean, I feel that MSA has, you know, taken this neutral approach when it comes to things, and they don't want to speak out about things, or, you know, they rely on certain committees, such as the Social Justice Committee, and then even they can't speak up on it. But with the individuals on this campus that, you know, see something that touches them, or, you know, it moves them and they want to speak up about it, or they want to support it, it's their, you know, the way of our school doing that. Basically, it would bridge the gap between, you know, MSA, LBC, the Black Studies Department, the Women's Center, all the Social Justice Center.
Forefront, MISC, the list goes on.
We want to include everyone because, you know, these organizations, most of the time, they only sit in a room for joint session. But this
another thing recognized on our platform.
But this way, it would allow these individual organizations on campus to collectively come up with 49 individuals that they feel are fostering social justice, are, you know, implementing that change on our campus. And
they're doing something about it.
Yeah, they're doing something about it.
These students are already there. They're not going to strive for this award, or not even award, this accolade, whatever specific you want to apply to it. In our world, in our perfect world where everything works our way, we would like to see a blue ribbon committee out of those many different factions on campus recognize 49 students who thrive in the areas of social justice. That's really all this is. It would build camaraderie. It would be a way where MSA can put its stamp on something that says we support the activism of these students. And it's not something where we take credit for what we're doing. We just say thank you.
And we've already, you know, had individuals from these departments and these organizations say, you know what, we stand behind this idea. It's overdue. It's overdue.
It's a tangible way we can come together. And that's not as cheesy as I thought it would sound. Well, I think firstly, it shows MSA is tangibly committed to recognizing and participating in the initiatives or the purposes that these students have put their time towards. I think secondly, it's going to be really hard to say whether or not you'll have your meetings or you'll have camaraderie after that. You would hope at the very minimum there'd be a secret Facebook group among them, you know, much like when you do Community 360 or anything. But we would like to see it grow into something. I want to be a part of Mizzou 49, not because it's Mizzou 49, but because of what those students who tend to be in Mizzou 49 do. It's really free to be what it becomes. We just know that its purpose will be solid.
Oh, yeah, because everyone I've talked to about it, they're like, oh, this is great. I've run out of swipes before, and I've needed swipes, and, you know, I have friends that don't have them. But, I mean, you don't want to go up to a stranger and be like, hey, buddy, you want to just swipe me in? But this, first off, addresses food insecurity. That's the main point about it. I know when I first got to the university, I didn't have a meal plan. I was a transfer student. I lived off campus, and I was living on, after paying rent, $20 for 2 weeks for food. It's hard. It's hard. Eventually, I applied for food assistance. I received it, and at first I felt, guilty and like kind of ashamed. But I'm like, I've been working for 3 years. The state of Missouri has been taking taxes out of every single check. I already paid for this, so yeah.
Swipe me in. It'll work because it's organic. It's just like Mizzou Rideshare. All you have to do is set it up, encourage people to participate in it, and then it will grow on its own. Students already, I have many friends who have swipes. Hey, I have all these swipes, but you never know what to do with them. Many parents, when they, especially first semester, fall semester, buy the largest meal plan because CDS isn't exactly 100% transparent when it comes to buying those meal plans. And now that CDS has switched to an Emporium, and I forget what it's called outside of Dobbs, they've switched much more to non-perishable items. The Swipes program that the Social Justice Committee, which Don and I were a part of, used to do is no longer possible. So now this is a way where students with swipes can use those swipes in a safe space. Dining halls are a safe space. If you feel threatened, there are people there who can help. You can just leave whoever it is at the door if you feel unsafe. And in a perfect scenario, you meet a friend, you help tackle food insecurity, and you help destigmatize the conversations of food insecurity.
Okay. So how will you ensure that it goes to the right people, though, like within that system?
So
By good trust.
Good trust.
I mean, on Facebook, hopefully, there's a lot of people who identify as going to the University of Missouri. A lot of it is built off of being trustworthy. And you know what? If there is a professor, or if there is a student who's taking a semester off who needs to be swiped in, and they ask you, and a student says yes, 100% behind that decision, you're helping the community. And really, there's no enforcement mechanism you'd be able to do. You'd have a lot to discern on your own, the same as you do in Mizzou Rideshare or the Ticket Exchange or any number of Facebook groups. Yeah,
and I know Facebook groups like that, you have to have, the domain and all that. And there's an email that goes to your Mizzou email, and you have to click it, and then it lets you in. So, I mean, that's a security feature right there.
Yeah.
And like what Jordan said, just trust, really. I mean, it'll build the camaraderie, and, networking comes out of that, and friendships come out of that too.
And at the end of the day, we can be comfortable with it because dining halls are safe spaces. We haven't started it yet because this is actually an idea that we came up with as we were getting ready to run. It's SJC, or excuse me, Social Justice Committee. Last semester was the last semester where the swipes program went on. This has kind of been a fluid situation. So, and actually this semester was the first semester where swipes were switched to being different by dollar amount, depending on which meal plan you have. We used to go to Baja and things were 0.8 swipes, and now I think they're by dollar amount, at least what I've been told. So there have been a lot of moving parts here. We'd also, if we're going to do it the right way, would want to work with RHA to get this put into place, and so it's going to take a little bit of time, and why not have it on the platform? Well, so what we're kind of banking on is that the same way that, let's just go ahead and be general here. You have an upperclassman. They have food, they're just on campus. They just want to get swiped in. They'd say, hey, swipe me in. You wouldn't have to put yourself out there as food insecure. You're just a student asking to be swiped in. The same as if you're a freshman that ran out of swipes. Hey, swipe me in. You never have to say your situation. You never have to go into detail. It's just, hey, can you swipe me in? Or we would hope also from the other side, you have students saying, hey, I have extra swipes. Anybody want to get swiped in today?
Right.
You would build anonymity through a lack of detail of the situation rather than being completely anonymous through the exchange of a non-perishable item.
And a lot of students already do basically what Swipe Me In is already. You know, I have a couple friends that I text and I'm just like, yo, are you in class right now? You know, can you swipe me into Sabai? Can you swipe me into Dobbs? Can you swipe me into Plaza?
Yeah.
You know, they already know, yeah, I live off campus. I don't have a meal plan. They do. So it, you know, informs this already exists in, you know, circles in different communities already. But now this is an opportunity for the entire university to, you know, have that conversation like, hey, does anyone have swipes? Can you swipe me in? You know, and even the people that, you know, are embarrassed about being food insecure or something like that, you know, we haven't titled this, you know, food insecure student. It's swipe me in.
Yeah. It's for anyone and everyone. And from the positive feedback we've heard already, generally, I'm not generalizing as a candidate. I haven't heard a bad thing about swipes yet, besides the concern about anonymity. And also, if this was successful in the first month or two, we would then begin to phase in education prerogative within the group and kind of do a public awareness campaign in it. So,
especially with off-campus housing,
yeah,
that office really helped me. My transfer year, it was really rough, especially dealing with different apartment complexes. You know, this is just a way to bridge the gaps that are, you know, here on campus already.
so within the Senate, you have an incredibly high rate of turnover. You also have programs like the liaison program that have been set up and set up and set up. They are ineffective in what they try to do. And when we're talking about being serious about programs like It's on Us, if we get elected inside out, we need to make sure that we are having not the conversations, but the activism that needs to be there between MSA and Greek life. Plus, we talk about we want to get involved in the community with organizations that already have their hands in there, philanthropy efforts. We want to talk about utilizing forums where we can talk to a large number of students, chapter meetings, dinner speeches. This just allows us to continue to work with Greektown outside of the 1 month of election season every year. Because that's what's happening. That's what has happened and will continue to happen unless we set up something like GLOW. The President's Council is no more. Just another meeting phenomena is something that we try to avoid. And this will just have someone whose only job is to make sure we're in lockstep with the executive boards that are just on the other side of the CSI. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard, but it is. And so we need someone that's dedicated and has the sole purpose of just that. And if they come from the Senate, I'd love that. But right now, the fact of the matter is MSA Senate, we're just not getting it done.
Working with the Office of Academic Retention Services, that's, you know, the office on our campus. It has a bad stigma behind the name, but again, speaking as a transfer student, they really helped me understand the Mizzou curriculum. You know, actually holding students accountable through ARS, actually getting students that are first generation students or, you know, what have you, connected with the Trio Cats program and the ARS STARS program to foster, you know, additional scholarship money, to foster, you know, free tutoring, to foster success workshops, even, you know.
Peer tutors. Yeah. MSA has a stigma. Peyton has done a brilliant job in trying to correct it, but it is not all the way there yet. For some reason, we think we're the federal government. And we think that whenever there's an issue, that there isn't already an office or a department or a center or an initiative for it. And so instead of going out and looking and seeing what we can do to empower and facilitate, we just say, all right, we're going to take this over and try to do it, and we end up being redundant, and we're only in office for a year, so many times you see them fall apart. The exception being Dregge's Auxiliaries, Tiger's Pantry, and Truan's Closet, which are brilliant. ARS is there for a reason, and we look at it in terms of academic success as facilitating what they're trying to do, lending them our resources in an expanded Department of Student Communications, which is on the platform, then also building off of the avenues we've already created in the Universal Honor Code that we're trying to get installed in syllabi by having the working student clause. There are a number of areas where we are showing that we're going to be as efficient as possible and as real as possible in tackling academic success. There is no one fix all. What it would do is you would ask the deans of each individual college to adopt in their department section of the syllabi, which includes one of the honor codes. They're different for each school or college. And it would just be a clause that says, if you work over 20 hours a week and you take more than 12 credit hours, upon an extemporaneous circumstance, for example, you have a test at noon on Friday, your boss calls you at 8 a.m. and says, so-and-so's sick, I need you to come in and work the 10 to 4 shift. That 6 hours might be the difference for some of us. It has been for me for putting food in the pantry. And so as a student, I shouldn't have to choose between putting food in my pantry or taking a test. And so all it does is it gives you 48 hours to go and come back and take the test. It's in the syllabus, so the professor will be able to anticipate it, or the TA, and so will the student. I would hope it wouldn't be abused. I think that it would be very successful. I know this happens, and this is one simple way where the university can say, yes, we're serious about making sure students are as successful as possible, and especially as we keep asking students to pay more fees, we need to have some more flexibility in terms of these institutionalized practices in classrooms when it comes to the extemporaneous nature of the working world for a student who is part-time almost all of the time.
And even to put it in layman's terms, you know, just talking to people. I've talked to people, and I'm like, have you ever had an assignment due at 11:59 p.m. and your work schedule exceeded that, and you missed the deadline, and then you talk to the professor, and they say, oh, well, you should have turned it in earlier. Or my favorite quote, well, when I was in college, I worked 60 hours and I had 17 credit hours, and the list goes on. But it's breaking down that stigma, like, oh, I did it, so you can do it too. It's actually, focusing on mental health. Some people, get stressed out and they get very anxious because, oh, I worked, now I have to study, but I can't focus because, my boss made me upset. And, like Jordan said, that 6 hours, from you studying for an exam or going to work, it makes a difference between, an A or a C minus. It makes a difference.
And the only real obstacle to any of this is how individual colleges would want to enforce it. Would we use some permission slip? Or would we
documentation?
How would we go about doing it? And when that's the question that you're asking, I think everyone's going to be on board at the end of the day. Yeah, well, there's that. There's a number of options, and I think that it'll be individualized to the individual TA or instructor or professor. You can always take the test next class time. You can arrange outside of it. You already see accommodations made through the office of, or the disability, I forget the name, the disability office essentially. Even if you were to make accommodations elsewhere, you actually can take tests at the library if you need to by a certified librarian. There are so many options to that I'm not too concerned about how that would work out at the end of the day, because I do think it would be so personalized.
What's Lauren's question there?
So, your platform doesn't talk a ton about the budget. How will you, choose if you're going to change any sort of funding allocations? How will you, I guess, discern certain budget cuts that you have to make, or, reallocation of money? How will you decide all of that?
So, great question, actually. What I've been telling people, like what I've been doing is dissecting the budgets from the past 5 years of MSA. Basically, I'm going to average those off. I'm going to evaluate where the budget was at for that auxiliary organization for 2014, and basically visit the person that's the coordinator or the executive, or the person over that auxiliary, and talk to them about their expenditures and ask them, would you need a decrease? Would you be okay with just staying right here? Also working with the budgetary committee, because they're there for a reason. I'm not, I'm one person, and math is not my strong suit. So, actually going hand to hand with a part of MSA that their sole purpose during the budgetary process is to be with the vice president and the auxiliary secretary, making sure that no one gets overlooked. And by visiting them, talking to them one-on-one, assessing wants versus needs, I think that, it'll be a successful approach with addressing the MSA budget, is actually auditing the MSA budget for the past 5 years.
Yeah, first let me say that when you go to talk to your vice president, hey, we need to go over the budget, and he's like, oh, I already printed out all 5, and they're 90 pages each, and he's gone through and highlighted them. That's when you're like, okay, all right, we might be all right on this one. We're also, on the budget, you'll see 2 things. We're open to expanding the executive to fit the needs of a growing student body with growing needs. When the bureaucracy's falling short, it's because you're not expanding enough. Second, you'll see that when we are asking to shift elections to April, it isn't just to do it for namesake. It'll put us on the same page as over 90% of universities, every single one in the SEC. More importantly for the budget, it means the outgoing executive will do the budget. So you'll have a year to come in and get to know your auxiliary, see where the funding's going, see where the money flow is, and then set the budget for the next upcoming year as someone who's very knowledgeable on it, rather than someone who literally just took office and got thrown into the fire. Because not everyone is Brenda or John, hopefully, and very adequate or very enthusiastic about this. We've had administrations in the past where this can get to be a word I'm not allowed to say on television. We're real. 2-word response. I mean,
to get off, or I'll say it this way. We met in Social Justice Committee last year. We met in Social Justice Committee. I live for it. That, when I was a 5th grader and I had a very overtly racist teacher that told me that I was never going to amount to nothing because I came from a single parent household and that I was an N-word. That day, my life changed completely. And, I could have fallen into the stigma. I could have, actually done, I use that as an opportunity for me to assess, my life at a young age, my life and what I wanted to do in it. And thus far, I've met those milestones. I fought tooth and nail. I've, interned with Representative Clay. I've helped many different organizations like the NAACP. At my previous school, it was the first school that had a college chapter for the NAACP, and I worked hard with it. I remember that there was a bill on the floor about defunding HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and we walked 16 blocks to the Capitol and lobbied. That's how adamant I am about social justice. It isn't something that I throw around lackadaisical. It isn't something that, I just started posting it on my wall on Facebook because I'm campaigning now. This is something that I eat, breathe, sleep. I wake up in the morning for this. I go to sleep, with this on my mind at night, how I can help not just my people, but everyone around me. How can I make, someone else's problems, how can I help them with those solutions?
Social justice isn't independent of anything in life. It isn't something you can just make up. I mean, I've been volunteering in my community since I was 12. Won Volunteer of the Year award for football and baseball at 13. I mean, it wasn't something that I'm like, whoa, it's just who I am. Helping people is what I love to do. And very often that aligns with social justice issues. So that's where I've been. Even in internships, when I broadcasted for a baseball team last year, it was a collegiate baseball team that put its home field in Anacostia, Maryland, which is the ghetto of the ghetto of the ghetto, and focused on bringing in at-risk children to have a positive structured environment. Anything and everything that John and I normally do, we tend to do with social justice issues. It's just who we are. It's not something that we have to go all out of our way to be attracted towards.
Like, I'm a Jumpstart tutor, and
Yeah.
I tell people all the time that before Jumpstart, did not see myself having children, but now, actually seeing, the home dynamics and some of the stories and some of the narratives
Children.
from the children, is just like, it goes through your mind. You don't want to say this to a child. You went through this at 3. You went through this at 4.
Or Fun
How
City.
dare me be a 21-year-old and sit up in my, $600 a month, apartment and not do anything about the world or the neighborhood that I'm in. I got placed here for a reason.
I think the difference is that if you were to ask all of the candidates what it means to be a minority that has privilege, John and I might not be able to shut up about it. So the Social Justice Committee, and we used to have a chief diversity officer. And the chief diversity officer was young, and she was amazing. I don't know how that woman slept. She was everywhere. And that was in conjunction with Peyton Head as the head of the Social Justice Committee. They both did their thing. They worked together on things. This isn't an area where we're saying, oh, we're going to take over your committee and absorb it into the executive. We're not going for some Caesar coup d'etat. What the diversity office would do is allow those who, as we ask our entire executive board and the board of all joint session governments and the executive board of all org organizations to be Green Dot trained, DPE facilitated and safe space trained, that we are making sure we're providing adequate resources on how that can be done, where it can be done, on quick questions about whether or not an event is inclusive or a safe space. There used to be a checklist that you could distribute to organizations where you could check off, oh, I'm not using triggering language. I'm making sure to use pronouns that are of preference. Why some things might be more offensive than other things. It isn't something that's going to be in friction with Social Justice Committee. It's going to have much more of an executive function, much more flexible, and again, someone who is dedicated. That is their job. Maybe 2 or 3 people. I don't think that one was enough. And it's not going to task one person in the executive with being diverse. We all will be. We will all be aware of our social justice issues, of our privileges, of sexual assault prevention, destigmatizing the conversations, having safe spaces. It's just one area where we think that we could do a better job at reaching out rather than consistently asking organizations to come with us. And where we can work with social justice, we will.
Okay.
Sorry, there's a lot of little things.
Yeah.
That's a 3-year conversation. Well, they've kind of gotten most of
Oh my God.
their platform done.
It's like,
I think one thing we changed, bring back some role of a chief diversity officer.
SGA.
We might change it. That's name isn't set in stone. SGA. That's something that actually I was talking with Peyton about a long time ago. We'd like to continue their efforts on It's On Us. We'd like to
Yeah.
continue their efforts in the Pride.
Yes.
We'd like to see that same charisma, that destigmatization of MSA as the federal government. We'd like to see that. We'd like to see much more of a lateral communication rather than a vertical. But otherwise, they've already accomplished a lot of
A lot.
almost all of it. And most of it's, all of it's good. There's not much where you're like, yeah, I got to repeal that. There's no Obamacare in here, quote unquote.
So
I am a Democrat, by the way. That was just a joke.
it's like, but yeah, being a transfer student, I've said that a lot.
You have. We
you
know
know,
what he identified that.
looking at how Peyton ran his campaign all the way through, actually following through. It's a hard act to follow. It's
Yeah.
a hard act to follow, and it's a
be a
lot
hard
of
act to
pressure. First off, I feel that we got this.
Oh, we got this. We're not afraid to be bold.
Exactly. And our platform addresses the invisible student for a reason, because that 83%, when, we were getting our petition signed, and those 600 plus individuals, some of them didn't even know what MSA is and what it does.
And that's not an uncommon phenomenon.
But, and then on top of that, people don't understand. It's like, yeah, MSA takes $171.44 from you each semester. Each semester. It only went up $1.40 from this spring to the fall, which is great. That's one thing that I really want to continue from the head Smith-Lozana
I know I can never say it straight either.
administration, keeping the cost as low as possible, because $1.40 some odd cent might be nothing to someone, but it could be a deal breaker of coming to this institution for someone else. So actually, putting affordability, not just only on our platform, but actually into MSA, and actually enforcing that through a great budget, actually enforcing that through making sure activity fees stay as low as possible, but we don't take away from the Mizzou experience itself.
And then you can sum it up in two things. We're not going to be afraid to take it farther, and we're not going to be afraid to never stop campaigning, which I think is something that is very easy to say, but it's going to be very hard to do. That's why there's GLOW, so we can keep going around, keep engaging that 87% that doesn't care, because we don't do enough to address the needs of the invisible student. We need to stop passing pieces of pieces of paper in our Senate. That's a phrase you've heard a lot, and start actually getting out there. Peyton's done a brilliant job with that, and now it's time to finish the job or continue the job. It'll never be finished. Well, that's a fun question. You would hope that the committees would, every person in this election, I say this very confidently, every person in this election agrees with us about moving the elections to April. So there's one thing that we can come together on. All right, bipartisanship.
Yay.
So move the elections to April. There's going to be a very good debate about whether or not to change the name of MSA to SGA. The time for that conversation will come. When it comes to expanding the executive, I believe that John and I, and through the conversations that we've had, in expanding the executive, will do so without a lot of friction. And where there is friction, we will address it. John and I, again, we're not going for the Caesar coup d'etat. We will work with Senate. We will build bonds that are stronger than ever before. One thing that this is reminding me of in the previous question is that even senators, they were really surprised at the executive with Peyton Head at the head of it. Well, that's a weird sentence to say. Didn't build a stronger connection with MSA for how powerful, with the Senate, for how powerful of a committee chair he was. So when it comes down to it, we'll have that conversation. At the end of the day, we're going to do what we need to do to fulfill our promises and our goals and to get back to basics. Okay, let me give you a rundown. Last year, when Peyton was elected, he's sworn into office in January. The RHA, which is the second largest organization on campus, president was booted out in March. Other SEC schools, if you talk to any of them, you talk to them for 3 months, and then they were booted out in April. So you spent your first 2 months trying to build these relationships so that you can start working together. Then all of these people change guard. Then this horrible thing for student government called summer rolls around. And when summer rolls around, imagine this, it's hard to get things done. So you immediately waste 6 months. And then you're sitting there and it's August. All the students come back, you have all this fall welcome duties to do. Then a month goes by and it's homecoming. So in all effectuality, it makes it very, 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 very hard to do your job. And for those who do brilliant jobs like Peyton and Nick Dregge, God bless you. I mean, it is tough. But beyond that, it'll allow us to have the budget being done by the outgoing president. When we go to national conferences or SEC conferences and are lauded for Tiger's Closet, Truman's Closet, Tiger's Pantry,
and
Stripes,
Yeah.
all of these auxiliaries that really, Mizzou is at the forefront when it comes to auxiliaries. We can actually have conversations with universities in the SEC who are trying to do the same. And if we do something as aggressive as Inside Out, which involves Green Dot training of thousands of students, and Green Dot actually next fall semester will hold the equivalent of National Green Dot Day and train thousands of students at once, we can help facilitate how other universities might be doing this by actually knowing who they are. Peyton will go right into his office, he'll bring up a spreadsheet and he'll say, yeah, met this guy, met this guy, met this guy, would have loved to work with them, but you know, they're in their lame duck.
Yeah, and then even going away from even the SEC, you know, I have a friend right now, Tanner Bone, he's the president of Arkansas, and you know, he's
So
like,
much
you
for going
know,
away from the SEC.
yeah, and he's like, you know, it's so strange how your elections fall in the fall. That was a weird sentence. But you know, it kind of throws things off. You know, I have another friend who's the president of UCM, and you know, they were recognized by President Barack Obama for, you know, their green efforts on campus. And you know, I was notified and corrected that we're one of the most sustainable colleges on campus. But you know, we can push it further.
Yeah.
You know, and those ideas and those things might not come from Mizzou. They might not come from the SEC. They may come from UCM. They may come from most state. You know, it's time to reach out to other schools in Missouri, other schools outside of Missouri, to get the answers to some of our problems.
And even on campus, I mean, you're talking about all of these things where you want to talk to multiple organizations. I almost am comfortable saying all of the other joint session governments elect in April too. Within MSA, the Senate Speaker is elected in April. We don't even have consistency within our own organization. I am a bit of a bureaucrat when it comes to when I see just glaring inefficiencies that you could correct like that, I'm all about it. This is such a glaring one, and it's why almost everyone, I can confidently say everyone, in this election is behind that idea. And it's not my idea. We talked about this a decade ago. In 2002, we actually passed resolutions to make this happen. We just never got it on a ballot for a referendum of the students. So technically, we already have the authority to put it on a referendum, so we'll just get it put on there and get the election cycle changed to April like it needed to be done decades ago. You mean that we didn't talk about freely?
Yeah, really. I mean,
No matter who you vote for, get out and vote.
Yeah.
I think I said that last year too. And it's because 87% of students let their student fees go to waste. Not in that they aren't used, but because they didn't give their input on how they could be used. We aren't running for governor. We aren't going to sell you false promises. We will be as real as possible. We will come, we will never stop campaigning. We will never stop being students. We will bring every single one of those 27,000 voices into our offices with us, and together we can move Mizzou forward We can. What's the other one?
Oh.
I don't know.
Together, right?
Yeah, Mizzou
Bring
together.
Mizzou together.
by just getting back to
to
basics. Though the other two are they're so included in us.
Yes.
We're just taking a step farther, and we have concrete plans, and we aren't going to act like we can ever do this without every single one of you. So.
And like Jordan said, to the 83%, I admonish them.
87.
Or did I say 87%? I admonish them to, put the $171.44 to use, because, to the voter, we hear you.
I want to know what they have to say.
To the non-voter, we also hear you. But, I tell people all the time, especially, going through the whole campaigning process and, oh, I don't know him. And I'm like, well, if you see this person, get to know them, or, hold them accountable for not trying to get to know you.
John and I can be very bad at campaigning because sometimes we end up having hour-long conversations with people instead of talking to many different people in that hour.
Oh, man. And, with those individuals, it's a way for them to hold their next executives accountable. We are, voted in from the student population for a reason. Yeah. To, first off, get the voices that are unheard and get that invisible student in the executive. I tell people all the time, this is not my campaign. It's not Jordan's campaign. It's not Jordan and John's campaign. It is Mizzou's campaign. We are here for the student body.
Yeah.